Alright everyone, I'm back, and this time it's another top 10 list. This time around it's going to be yet another one that I've already sort of done before. Well, when I did it several years ago, I believe it was like 5, 6, 7 years ago, on worst and then best top 10s of the worst movie sequels. Yes, obviously movie sequels are, well, tossed around nowadays. Some are really good, others are really bad, but that's not what this list is about, best and worst. I'm just simply going with the best. So, yep, going all Watch Mojo on here, and yep, keep in mind people that is only one per franchise, and obviously it's just strictly my opinion, so don't go apeshit if you don't agree with me. This is yet another top 10 list of what I think the best sequels are ever made, so that means that the ones that were on that list, the best, obviously, since it's just the best, not the worst, are not going to be on this list. So if you want to see that one, well, click in my channel on the top 10 best or worst than best sequels ever made, because this is just the best sequels or another top 10 best sequels list. So once again, as I said, I'm going all Watch Mojo with a few honorable mentions thrown in here. Let's do it. Number 10. Bourne Supremacy. Yep. This is a franchise I didn't really have too much focus on, but you gotta admit, Matt Damon as Jason Bourne, he's pretty badass, I gotta say. And in this sequel, it may seem a little recycled, that's why it's this low on the list, but come on. It's just as good as you recall in the first movie. I mean, yeah, the editing is a little sloppy with the camera work, but the action and everything, whew, it's just simply awesome. That's all I gotta say. Matt Damon is still just as badass as ever. Number 9. Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Yep, this is obviously a sequel to the reboot, Rise of the Planet of the Apes, which was a surprise hit after Tim Burton inadvertently destroyed the Planet of the Apes, which was a classic franchise, you know, about man against ape. And yeah, we all can agree that was one of his worst films, or reimagining, as he would call it. So they obviously decided to take a gamble and reboot the franchise and go all Dark Knight on this type of franchise, and yes, I was like many others who thought it was really going to suck, judging by the trailer. I mean, the apes looked digitalized, it just didn't impress me much, but much to our surprise, it was really good. Yeah, definitely put a pounding on our chest, like an ape. And, wouldn't you know it, a sequel was set to follow, which was just as successful, and it was a great continuation of the story, introduced more characters, even though most of the actors were all new, which I was a little bit skeptical on, but thankfully I worried for nothing. And yeah, I know the beginning is a little slow, it's a lot of that sign language stuff with the apes and everything, but Caesar's just as badass as ever, and yep, all I could say is, Hail Caesar. Number 8. Mad Max Fury Road. Yeah, this is anybody's opinion which of this series is the best. And I'm like the Supremacy, or Bourne series, whatever you would call it. I'm not a huge fan of this franchise as much, but I have watched a few of these films, and this one, again, the trailer didn't impress me a whole lot, even though it took many years for the sequel to finally happen after the director did it. Of course, the Happy Feet movies, it's weird to see him go from that to this. And thank the Lord it delivered, because, yeah, it was incredible. The wait was definitely worth it. I mean, this time around, of course, you had Tom Hardy. You had, I mean, some great chase sequences, action. It was just simply a road you just want to go back on again. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Number 7. Conjuring 2. Yep, of course, you kind of expect this one. After all, I did review it from last year as one of the best horror films, pretty much in my opinion, and pretty much most people's opinions, and James Wan simply knows how to do it right. After the first one was great, and after the so-called Annabelle prequel spin-off, which was pretty much a disaster of epic proportions, but I think you can pretty much exclude that one out of the picture. After all, he didn't obviously direct that crap. I mean, it was obviously directed by the same guy who did Mortal Kombat Annihilation, so yeah, makes sense. So, of course, this one came along, and thankfully, it delivered. James Wan was back, so was Ed and Lorraine Warren, or, well, the actor and actress that play them, obviously, and this time around they're involved in the so-called true story Enfield case after the first film, you know, which was in Rhode Island at a farmhouse, which was scary, too. I mean, it had terrific suspense build-up, likable characters, even though they were based off real people. And I'm sure a lot of it was stretched, you know, for a lot of suspense and stuff, like any other true story film was. And this one was just as well. Great suspense, horror, and most importantly, the acting, the performances were great, especially the one who played Janet in this movie, the one who was possessed by a so-called man who died in the house in Enfield. I mean, it was terrific. It may seem a little long, and I know the Amityville scene at the beginning was kind of pointless, even though they hinted it at the end of the first movie. But, because, you know, the main focus obviously is on the Enfield case. And, yeah, it was great. I mean, again, a little bit long, but it was very well acted out. All I could say is, once again, James Wan did it again. It's impossible for him to fail. I just wish M. Night Shyamalan could take a few pointers from him, even though he's finally getting up back on his feet. But anyway, great sequel, great scares, not much to say there. Number 6, Hunger Games: Catching Fire. Okay, well, yeah, this was another one I reviewed, or more or less did a brief multi-part review back in 2013, right after I saw it, and all I had to say was, wow. Yeah, I like the first movie. People complained about these book-based movies because either they're too slow or they don't follow the source material well enough. People, you gotta remember, movies based off books, they're not gonna put every single bit of detail from the book in there. Okay? Obviously, these movies, you gotta read the book, obviously, before watching the movie, which is how I recommend it, obviously. And after reading the books, I think it follows it great. Yeah, the first one did have a lot of shaky camera and choppy editing problems, but thank God with this movie, because of fixing that problem with smoother camera and choreography, wow, that's why this one is a lot better. Not only that, they move on to a better story, you know, about going back, obviously, into the fighting arena, but taking on a much bigger challenge, because not only are these people, you know, champions, so they're, you know, much tougher to take on, but it's obviously more about taking on and knowing what the real enemy is, all about corruption and everything, and I think it does a great job. I mean, Jennifer Lawrence did a fantastic job as Katniss. I mean, she's simply amazing. Not much to say there. May the odds ever be in this movie's favor. Number 5, Star Trek: Wrath of Khan. Well, kind of saw this one coming, and I'm not a huge Star Trekky fan. I mean, I don't walk around with those freaking Spock ears and all that crap. And I like the new ones too. They're a different approach, and these were classic too, and especially this sequel was great. The effects may seem a little bit outdated and aged, but I think it still holds up well for today's standards. Great continuation, and of course with the sequel to the reboot, they were trying to basically copy this film, but they kind of failed. But not that it was a terrible movie, it just was kind of bloated a little bit with Into Darkness. But this one I think still holds up. Great action, great space adventure. Not much to say there, it's simply awesome. Number 4, Toy Story 2. Well, yeah, an animated movie. Surprise, right? No, shouldn't be. And this sequel was, well, it's anybody's opinion whether they like this one or the third one better. And I think they're both great, but what's great about this one over the third, which we knew the third was going to be a great continuation, or, well, conclusion. Oh wait, no, not a conclusion, that's right, they're really milking this series with making a fourth film. I mean, I don't know why, but anyway, let's not get too carried away here. Yeah, this sequel surprised because it was originally supposed to be a direct-to-DVD sequel. And with Disney and Pixar, this was kind of like the beginning age for them with CGI, and yeah, the first film was pretty much their first take on CGI, and it was a big surprise hit. With the toys mostly looking great, and the people looking a little bit, you know, iffy. But the first film was a huge hit, and this one was a great continuation, and it introduced something new. That's why it was a big surprise. You didn't expect this to be a big hit. They took a lot of chances that paid off with these films. I mean, making a sequel that can just about almost top the first one? What a surprise there. And who'd have thought toys can actually do it? Introducing new characters, and I mean, it's a great continuation, so all I could say is, toys rule the Pixar world. Number 3, Rocky 2. Yeah, kind of saw this one coming, and I think, once again, just like Toy Story, it may seem a little recycled, the fact that Rocky goes back into the boxing ring to rematch Apollo, but it's also a great continuation of the story. It shows more of the character, you know, how he's going from, you know, because he made all the money from when he won the match at the end of the first one, spoiler alert there, but yeah, he's trying to live a normal life and move on, while obviously Apollo Creed can't move on with the whole match the way he thinks it was rigged in the last movie, so he wants a rematch, but Rocky refuses at first because it's tough for him to find a job and support his wife, and obviously she has pregnancy complications and everything, so it's a very down-to-earth story, and once again, like I said, it's a great continuation. It does more with the franchise as well as, you know, recycle a little bit, but, you know, you gotta do a little bit of both to keep the franchise going. And as you know, this franchise did go on to a little point of ridiculousness, especially with the 4th and 5th film, but it did pick itself up a little with the 6th movie and Creed as well. But not to get too carried away, I'd say this is almost just as good as the first movie, which was a surprise sleeper hit. And I say Rocky can still pack a punch in this one. So, definitely check it out. Number 2, Aliens. Oh yeah. James Cameron, you really impressed this time around. I mean, this was the first shot he ever took at sequels, and it's back in this day after the first film was a huge surprise hit from director Ridley Scott. And, well, yeah, it was suspenseful, it was slow at some parts, but that's what it does. It builds up a lot of suspense and horror in space where nobody can hear you scream. Yeah. This time around, of course, it's not aliens coming to Earth, it's the people going into space, and an alien comes on board, well, after it breaks out, you know, in the face hugger and everything. I don't have to explain too much, but it's great. It's gruesome, but I think this one is just a bit better. It's anybody's opinion which one they think is better, but this one has everything. It continues the story many years after, and of course, this was back in the days where sequels didn't happen right away like they do today, when a movie's a big hit and they're already planning a sequel. No. It took many more years for it to happen with this one. So, yeah, it's only right that James Cameron does this, and man, did he deliver. Boy, I mean, he got such likable characters. Of course, he got Sigourney Weaver back in there. Got action, horror, and it makes sense that they call it aliens, plural, because, you know, it's more than one alien. So they're trying to hunt them down and take them out. And yet, the characters are as likable as ever. I especially love Bill Paxton's character. And yet, I know I already explained this on my Best Aliens movie list of 2015, so, yeah, you know, the funny quote, game over, man, it's game over. Not much to say there. Definitely check these two out. I mean, you can't sweep this under the rug like with Terminator 2, you know, over the first one. Not that I would do that either. I mean, they're both great films, so yeah, obviously James Cameron would go on to do even better sequels in this, you know, just as good, I should say. So, yep, he took a chance and it paid off. But as for Alien 3 and Resurrection, yeah, forget about it. I can definitely see why those failed. But otherwise, more aliens, the better.